if it's Friday night and your orders can't get out and you need to have people over to help you pick and pack, your family, your friends, and you have to buy them pizza to help you pack those orders, it's time to look at a 3PL.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Jared.
Hi, I'm Melinda.
And welcome back to The Secret Life of Inventory. This is a show where we dive deep into the unseen world of inventory management, revealing the hidden mysteries that help businesses like yours optimize their workflow and succeed.
Today, our guest is a superstar in the complex world of supply chain operations. Please welcome Maggie Barnett, the CEO at LVK Logistics and COO at ShipHero.
Maggie is the driving force behind the operational, legal, and administrative core of these organizations. She's best known for her leadership, her risk mitigation, and driving major business transformations.
One of the most impactful moments of Maggie's career was reshaping ShipHero's strategy from purely a 4PL model towards a 3PL, even going so far as to say that the 4PL model will never work.
So if you're wondering which fulfillment model is right for your business and when to outsource, stay tuned, because in this episode, we are going to be breaking down all of the fundamentals of in-house fulfillment, 3PL relationships, and we're even going to talk about why a 4PL actually might cause more headaches than you might think. Thanks so much for being here, Maggie.
So excited. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
So Maggie, before we dive into all the logistics, can you tell us, how did you get into the world of supply chain?
You know, I wish it was a more interesting story. I'm a trained lawyer. I think I'm an entrepreneur by birth. I've always been like consulting, building businesses my entire life. Mm-hmm. And I was set up with one of my friends, and they had put me in charge of a meat and seafood company. So it was meat and seafood, similar to Omaha Steaks. So it was frozen foods, direct to consumer. But it was cool because it was like organic and grass fed. Okay. So my first D2C warehouse experience was in a freezer. So
the best environment
in Hunts Point, New York. So I felt like I could only go up from there.
Starting at truly the bottom.
Truly the bottom, and it was freezing, and I was there with my friend Mark Anderson packing out boxes. We were able to triple sales. So that's, obviously there's two sides to that, right? We were so excited, and then we're like, how are we going to get all of this out? So that's where I started. I ended up meeting Aaron about 6 years later, Aaron Rubin, the CEO of ShipHero. And we did a pilot program together at that time. I was running a concierge business in New York City. So I had some storefronts. And one of the things that we did was we would accept packages for people, similar to like a UPS drop point. Because in New York City, there's like no doorman. And people would always steal packages.
Right.
So that was part of the service offering that we did. And I ran a project with him, and after that, I guess about a year later, he hired me, and I've been at ShipHero for 8 years now.
Oh
wow!
So, yeah,
okay.
so I've learned a lot.
Yeah. So fast forward to today, you're now the CEO of ShipHero and also the CEO of LVK Logistics. So do you want to walk us through like what your day-to-day kind of looks like? I'm sure it's pretty hectic.
It is hectic, but I'd like a lot of variety, and I think so. A few of my days, like yesterday, I got to meet with clients. I'm very much client-facing on both sides, and I love that because I can actually hear from them about what they want.
Right.
Because it's so easy for us to be like, oh, well, we need to pack this out faster. We need to do this faster. And many times we're like, I just need to be able to understand my business better. Give me the tools to do that.
Okay.
So most of the time I'm customer facing on both sides of the business. So, with LVK, I can help with pricing, strategy, working through customer agreements and those interactions. On the ShipHero side, I work through all the commercials. So for example, 2 days ago, we're working with some cross-border partners. And they're like, how do we integrate with ShipHero? So I walk them through that process. So I get to do a lot of stuff, and it's exciting.
So what are like the major challenges that you face having to juggle those two things?
It's all about time management. And I think the most important thing is not having someone else rush me for their own needs, in the sense of, for example, a business partner. If they really want that integration, great. But is that what our customers need right now? Or can that be postponed for 3 months, 4 months?
Right.
So it's really prioritizing my time and prioritizing the needs of our customers versus the needs of the partners sometimes. So that's where the push and pull comes from.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Maggie, let's say I'm a brand new business owner and I'm trying to figure out fulfillment for the first time. There are 3 main paths to choose from. Number 1, operating fully in-house. Number 2, outsourcing to a 3PL. And number 3, attempting a 4PL. Can you walk us through what these terms mean in simple everyday language?
Absolutely, Melinda. So
It's a lot.
It's a lot of L's.
It's a lot of L's.
Like numbers.
It's all logistics.
Yeah.
It's 1, 2, 3. It's so 1PL. You're just doing it yourself. And if you're a new business and you're just starting out and you're still trying to get that product market fit, absolutely self-fulfill. I always tell people to kind of do that when they're first starting out, to really get the customer feedback, see how the product's coming in. Say you're using a new supplier. You want to make sure that it's actually, you're touching and feeling the quality of the cotton or whatever. How do the bottles seal? So I think as a new business owner, that 1PL, like doing it yourself. So 1PL defined, you're self-fulfilling.
One-party logistics.
One-party logistics, it's you're printing out labels and putting them on. Third-party logistics, again, speaking mostly just e-commerce, is you're using a third party to fulfill. They have their own warehouse. You ship your products to them. They ship them out on your behalf.
Okay.
They'll help store the product. They'll receive the product, store the product, ship it out, and they'll usually arrange for the carriers as well. So that's the 3PL. 4PL is when there's another layer above the 3PL that will manage 3PLs for you. So this is for much bigger organizations, usually multinationals that have, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, if not billions, and they will need what they have is a 4PL layer that will manage those 3PLs underneath them. So they might manage a 3PL in Germany, a 3PL in Memphis, and a 3PL in Asia. So like it will be a whole lot to organize. So it's basically the architect of the 3PLs.
Okay.
How do businesses typically decide which one is right for them?
I think it really matters. You have to look at your business, look where you are. And a smaller business, self-fulfilling is okay. If you're doing a couple hundred orders a month, like
manageable.
It's manageable. I like to say you have to have the pizza party problem. And I know there is the pizza party problem with Amazon that, a meeting shouldn't be bigger than 2 pizzas can feed. I don't know if you've ever heard that. That's how Amazon looks at it. I have a different pizza party problem. Mine is if it's Friday night and your orders can't get out and you need to have people over to help you pick and pack, your family, your friends, and you have to buy them pizza to help you pack those orders, it's time to look at a 3PL, or to, get into a bigger space. So that's what I'd always say is when you're starting out, understand each part of the business. I think it's great. And you have to understand when to let it go and let a more professional organization take over parts of it.
Right. So when these companies are running, just doing self-fulfillment, what are some signs that, that it's time for them to move on? Are there any like red flags for them to look out for?
Definitely the pizza party. If you can't get these orders out, like that's a problem. If all of a sudden you start moving your content calendar around because you can't get orders out, that's a problem. If you start dictating the rest of your business because orders aren't getting out and you're taking on more customer complaints because, it's taking 4 or 5 days to get label on boxes, then you know that you need a change. And sometimes too, what I always tell people is like, you need to look within and be like, what do I like to do?
Right.
Yeah.
Do I want to like figure out all the ins and outs, where I put my inventory, how I print these labels out, what carriers to use, or do I want to build better products? Do I want to grow the community around my products? Like lean into your strengths.
Right. So are there any like false flags, like something that maybe if there's like a seasonal fluctuation and there's like a blip that people think, oh, it's time for me to move on, but it's really more of like a process failure, an inventory management failure?
Definitely. I think when you're using new tools, like most of our customers will be on Shopify. So everything moves pretty quickly. So they need to make sure, like, are they using Shopify and just printing those labels? That's an easy thing to do.
Right.
So a false flag could be like, okay, an influencer that maybe you didn't pay to see your, to get your product promoted.
Right.
Drops a video and now all of a sudden you have 10,000 orders. Like that's going to take a while. Your community is going to understand that. And I think you need to know that might not be the norm. So that's kind of like a false flag to me. Also, when you just can't find inventory, like maybe you just made a mistake. If one of your friends who is helping you do things and putting things away, like that could be a false flag too. You don't want to start to go into a 3PL if you're not ready to commit to that 3PL for at least a year. So that's the other piece too. Like you have to make sure you have enough inventory to make it worth your while and for the 3PL.
So earlier, we mentioned how you were instrumental in moving ShipHero away from a 4PL towards a 3PL model. Can you take us behind the scenes of that decision? What were the early red flags that made it clear that the model wasn't working?
It's a good question. And so it starts out, because you try to think back, like, what were we thinking? Like, what were we doing at that time? And ShipHero is very innovative. We're always trying to create the next thing. And when we thought about the 4PL model, it's very seductive in the sense of, you're like, we're a tech company. We can just be that tech layer. We don't need to own warehouses. We don't need to hire the employees. We're just going to we'll interface with the customers, and these other people will do the work. Right. That's basically what a 4PL is. I'm being a little facetious, but it's like, I mean, finance people love this, right? It's asset light. It's like, we're just going to make all this money by aggregating all this volume. Like, it sounds brilliant. Yeah. And for many people, especially like with international needs, when it comes to like having a place in Australia, a 3PL in Australia, like, or in Europe again, and in the US, it makes sense to have a 4PL. Okay. But for the up and coming brand, it's very difficult. So coming back to ShipHero, we're like, this 4PL will be great because we'll just be the tech layer. And I still send my initial my 3PL partners, Randall and Tyler in Salt Lake City, Alana in Columbus, Ohio, and Andrew in Dallas. They were our 3PL partners, and they were amazing to work with. They were the actual ones doing the fulfillment. But the things that we sent into them, we didn't know what we were doing at that point too. We were like, it doesn't matter how big your brand is, send us your things and we will help you fulfill. We didn't have any guardrails. And at that point, what we realized was, if we want to go after an ICP of brands that ship under 10,000 orders a month, they need to have special hand-holding on the way through. You have to onboard them correctly. They just can't send in things without barcodes. So a big part of the 4PL to 3PL strategy was the following. One, we really needed to understand what the warehouse needed. Like, you just can't throw them customers, because that was the idea of like, oh, we're going to bring you more volume. We're going to bring you more volume. And they were excited about that. But when that volume is just inventory that is not clean, it's mixed, all different SKUs mixed in boxes, not barcoded, and you have some unsophisticated sellers, it can get really messy really quick.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So at that point we said, you know what, we need to get back into the warehouse to make our WMS better. We also need to get back into the warehouse because if we want to service these customers, we have to be able to deal with the exceptions. Right. Period. Like, it's just, one of the other pieces about the 4PL that we saw was that there's so many layers. When something goes wrong, it's like a game of telephone. I don't know if you guys ever played telephone, but like by the third person, the fourth person, the message is so diluted. You're like, well, what was the problem? What are we fixing? So I think that was a few of the things that came to mind. We thought this was a very exciting opportunity to run a 4PL.
It sounded nice,
It sounded nice, but then we actually we needed to do the 3PL first.
So what was the biggest like operational breakdown in your opinion? Was it the communication, or was it like inventory, like fulfillment? Like, what was it exactly?
So inventory hitting the dock, and trying to, if it didn't follow perfect routing guides, like fixing those exceptions was very, very difficult. Right. To communicate that, because you have a ticket with 4 different people going back and forth talking about this. Easiest thing is for the brand to talk to the person at the dock receiving this, to walk them through what might have happened. So that was the biggest part that we found. Like, exception management in general, anytime something went wrong, and then the communication to try to fix that. Right. Like, it was just very difficult.
Yeah. And what about like demand spikes, like seasonal fluctuations? Like, how do those kind of like those pressures reveal, what do they reveal in the 4PL system?
In the 4PL system, many folks in a warehouse in a 3PL that do 4PL services, so they don't have direct interaction with that brand. They're just outsourcing it, right? They're just doing the work. It's faceless. It's like, I never met the person who made this mug, but I'm just shipping it. Right. And usually I'm making a little less on this shipment than I do on all of my other shipments. And the reason for that is the 4PL has to make their money. Right. So if there's a big spike in volume, I have my other customers I have to deal with first that I will prioritize over those other customers. Like, it's just human nature to make sure that the customers you directly impact and interact with, you would protect first. Right. So if you can only get, 8,000 orders that day, but you have this huge spike, who are you going to prioritize? Sometimes, so that's, and I'm not saying that always happens, but that is a rub when it comes to the 4PL model, is like, what orders are going to get out first?
Right, fair enough.
So does that mean like the brand carries the risk of hurting their reputation, even if they're not the ones controlling the execution?
And I think exactly, that's bingo. And what they're trading, I don't think the trade-off is always that well known. And sometimes people don't even realize they're working with a 4PL. They think that, I'm interacting with this brand, this logistics brand that feels like a 3PL, and maybe they have a couple of their own warehouses, but then they're outsourcing a lot of this work. I would always caution people to really understand, like, are you owning and operating the execution at each one of your warehouses or not? And just having that be very transparent from the jump, because otherwise you just don't know. You might sign up for something, but you don't realize they're outsourcing.
What are some other downsides of a 4PL that businesses should be aware of?
Definitely the spikes, the communication lag, just the overall risk, because who you signed up to work with at that 4PL, maybe they're well funded, but if they've outsourced to a 3PL that might not have the cash flow to stay open, and we've seen a lot of 3PLs go under recently, with inventory sitting on their shelves, orders to be shipped, and they didn't open for business that day. So I think that's some of the unseen risk right now, especially where we are with tariffs and the economy and kind of seeing where we're going, especially in the US, like where we're going. You need to be very careful about actually who you're working with.
So on the flip side, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit. So some of the major benefits that we hear about 4PL, even from you, is that communication, having that single point of contact that is like kind of tied into the supply chain. They're often thought to have the better technology, as you spoke of as well. Like in your perspective, like, is that true? Like, how true is that?
So 4PL for, again, multinational conglomerates, absolutely. I think having that control tower to do all of that work is very important. SMB mid-market, I see it can be helpful, but let me say how it can be helpful. Playing devil's advocate. It's a horrible saying, but like the idea that you have one person to go after if something goes wrong, because they're responsible for everything.
Right.
So that is nice. You have one person to deal with. Some of the other things, you can get better carrier rates with all of that volume. So one of the ideas with 4PL is that they're aggregating all that shipping volume so they can get the highest tier and pass that along. So there are some really good benefits to 4PL. Also, I really like 4PL if you're going into other countries. I kind of talked about it before, but if you're going into Europe, you're going to Australia, like, that's great. Use those because there's experts there, and having someone kind of control that flow makes sense to me.
And have they evolved at all over time, or have they kind of just been like the same since their inception?
I think some are getting better with technology. I think overall access to technology is so much better. Like if you just think the last 15, it's democratized. From 2015, 10 years ago to 5 years ago, like everything that people are building now with like Claude, it's like, it's unbelievable. So I feel like the technology interface it's almost like table stakes now. Like you have to be able to have those things. Most 3PLs will leverage someone like a WMS, like ShipHero, so that you have the portals to log into, and other WMSs do that as well. So like you have all that visibility, where it used to be CSV uploads and emails and things like that. Like almost everyone has a portal now, or they should. So that piece, I feel like, used to be a huge point for the 4PLs, and I don't see that as much anymore.
So as technology is spreading out a little more, it's making them a little more obsolete by the day. It sounds like,
Agreed, exactly. It's just, and again, when it comes to the scale, and if you're really moving everything, if they're doing all of your ocean, all of your air, not just like your pick and pack D2C, and you are, the DHL e-commerces of the world working with multinationals, like that makes sense. But for most of the brands, I feel like we're talking about like self-fulfilling, and going to a great 3PL is probably an excellent solution.
So after ShipHero made its move from a 4PL to a 3PL, what actually changed day to day? How did taking back ownership of the supply chain impact the quality of service and the overall customer experience?
It didn't happen overnight. And, we kind of phased it in. We opened up a warehouse in Las Vegas. Aaron opened up a warehouse in Pennsylvania. So I was in Vegas for about 4 months, and we were on the ground. So all of a sudden, those issues that we were hearing about in tickets, second and third hand, we really understood. Because before I would call someone up, one of our partners, and I'd be like, why haven't you received this product? Like, I'm really interested. Like, I'm curious. Like, why is it taking 2-3 weeks to receive 6 pallets? Like, I can't wrap my head around it. Then I saw what 6 of these pallets looked like with, thousands of SKUs all mixed together. It was almost impossible to try to understand and receive these things unless you feel it and see those problems. So right away, we thought we have to be much more direct with our customers on what they can send in and guide them through that process. And so it was a lot of learning at first. And I think it took months to actually help our customers because we had to learn first about like what was truly going on, because you only hear bits and pieces. You have to feel the pain, I believe, before you can really try to fix it.
So was that something that boots on the ground was like really gave you the opportunity to?
Absolutely. And I think it made the ShipHero product so much better because we had to learn how to onboard clients. We actually saw everything in real time. And again, feeling that like, oh, the system is working this way. Why do I have to back out of this screen to add this? Just those little things where a count is off. Why am I starting the count all the way over? So I really appreciated that time in the warehouse because the learning is daily. You can't help. You're working 8, 10, 12 hours in a warehouse. Like, you're going to see a lot of problems quickly.
Absolutely. Thrown right into the thick of it.
Right into the thick of it. And it was like COVID at that time too.
Oh, God.
So people were just throwing stuff at us. Like, everyone needed more warehouse space. I was like, oh, it's easy to sign people up.
Yeah.
Keeping customers is a different story, but like, it was very easy because there was not enough capacity. And I feel like
logistics was probably incredibly different too, because that was the kind of the wasn't the start of it, but curbside pickup became very popular at that point. So it kind of added this whole extra layer.
It's a great point. It's a great point. Having all of these different mediums and like, all of a sudden it used to be just like UPS, FedEx. Now all of a sudden I've got like Uber Rush coming to pick something up from the warehouse. I've got DoorDash. I have people coming to the warehouse on their own. There was so many different ways that people were trying to get products out and picked up. So great learning though.
Yeah. So in your opinion, what are like the major like pros and cons of working with a 3PL?
Well, biggest pro I think is variable costs. Like, if you want to have your own warehouse, you have to pay that lease, whether sales are coming or going. You have to pay that staff, no matter sales are coming or going. Like, those fixed costs add up quickly and they're there whether it's your peak season or not.
Right.
Having that variable cost for brand, I think, is key. Only having to pay when stuff ships, obviously for storage, but I just think that's a huge benefit with the 3PLs. And then also just the idea of lower costs because carrier. Like, when a 3PL is going to get better carrier rates than one brand can on their own, usually depending on volume. So that's huge for brand. The third thing I think is just focus. Like, you can focus on building your brand, building your community, not worry about why isn't this order coming up on the iPad? You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a different, like, I feel like people really lose sight of that, like what they should be focusing on when they want to build their company.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no cons then?
No cons. It's perfect. It's absolutely like, just come with us. No, I think the biggest con is like you lose control. You're not going to see like some of those branded experiences that you might want, or they're going to be very costly. Like, you can find a 3PL to, put pixie dust into the box, but it's going to be more expensive. So you're going to lose a little bit of that touch and feel and that control, and also just seeing your product day to day.
Right.
If especially if you're using multiple suppliers and testing out new suppliers, it's like, how does the product look and feel? So you're going to lose a little control and like a little closeness to the product. But to me, usually the trade-off is worth it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when a business is ready to actually make that step and just switch to a different fulfillment model, what are some things that they should really look for in a 3PL partner? Like, what are some major attributes?
Technology. How easy is it going to be to get integrated with this 3PL? If you're sending them a CSV of your orders, like, hard stop. No, you can't be doing that.
People do that still.
People do that still.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was on a couple sales calls and they're like, yeah, my current 3PL is doing this. I'm like, that is not normal. Like, it is too easy now. There are too many great WMSs that these 3PLs should be using. Like, if you're a 3PL, you should have a WMS that is easy to use for for the brands.
Yeah.
So I think that's number one, is like, what's the technology in their warehouse? Number two, transparency around pricing. Like, what are you charging me for and how?
Yeah.
And knowing that it's okay. The 3PL should make money. Like, you
Right.
want the 3PL to make money.
Yeah.
So I think that part about transparency is really important. Then looking at scalability. Do they have one location versus two locations? You know, if you want to just do the East Coast, that's great, but can they open up on the West Coast?
Right.
Like, can they grow with you? Or do you know that once you get to that next level, you're going to have to find someone else?
Right.
And are you willing to move again?
Yeah.
So those are the things that I always look for, is like that scalability, the location. Are you okay that if you live in Memphis, like, why aren't you using a Memphis 3PL? You can get everywhere pretty quickly. You know,
Right.
why are you using someone in upstate New York? Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just like that you're limiting your options.
Have you ever, like, do companies use more than one 3PL? Is that common at all? Or?
Bigger companies do, yes.
Okay.
And sometimes we'll see certain companies, they'll use a 3PL for their B2B, like just like quick turns, and then they'll use another company for their D2C.
Oh, okay.
So we
That
do
makes sense.
see that. And they'll use multiple 3PLs, maybe again, if they have a 3PL in Germany versus the US. So they'll
Right.
use multiple 3PLs. I don't see many mid-sized brands using multiple 3PLs for D2C. In the US. Like,
Okay.
that's just too much to manage
Yeah.
inventory wise.
Right,
And it's just
right.
very costly, and there's
Yeah.
just a lot of,
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So when it comes to cost, how do 3PL and 4PL models typically compare?
It's a good question. And I think you would think that the 4PL model would be a little bit cheaper, because like part of their idea is like, we're aggregating all this volume, we're able to work with them. It's very, you know, we'll be able to lower your cost. But I find that the 4PL model, you end up paying a little bit more because there's someone else eating at the table.
Right.
You know, they
Right.
have a whole team under them, and they're interacting with other teams. So I find the 4PL model I've seen to be a little bit more expensive. Again, this is SMB mid-markets when they try to do it, because there's more people to feed.
Yeah,
Period.
naturally, yeah.
Like, when you're dealing directly with a 3PL that maybe has one or two locations, they don't have as much overhead,
Yeah.
and they'll be able to get you better rates on like the pick and pack, and you'll get more of a feel for it. So I hate to say that it depends, but it
Yeah.
does depend.
Okay.
Yeah, and it depends on what your products are like, how much inventory you can hold on to, how many orders you're doing a month.
Yeah.
Because all that plays a little bit of a difference.
For sure.
Looking back on ShipHero's pivot from a 4PL to a 3PL model, what were the biggest takeaways?
The biggest takeaway was that we always, if we're building products that are used in the warehouse, we have to test them in the warehouse. We have to be in the warehouse. It's not just about picking and packing things faster. It's about how do we figure out to manage this business, manage the workflows, help manage the customers. So, because again, I think with technology democratizing, as you said, like it's very easy to build stuff, but like, are you building the things that customers need?
Right.
So I think that was one of the biggest takeaways, is like, we were building a lot of cool stuff, but like, what are 3PL owners and brands that run their own warehouses? Like, what tools do they really need to manage the business?
Right.
So I thought that was like a huge takeaway of like, you can build a lot of cool, shiny stuff, but like, what do people need and use?
That's a great point. That's
Yeah.
such a great point. Yeah. The flashy features rather than the useful ones, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, because it is really cool when you can do something flashy, like it's
Yeah.
fun,
Yeah.
but also, does it really help move the needle? Like, will that drive EBITDA for that 3PL owner or not?
Right. There.
Yeah.
Was there a specific moment or trigger where you're like, oh, this isn't working, and it made it undeniable that the 4PL wasn't working?
There are so many moments when we had a 4PL where I thought, wow, this is not working.
Yeah.
Like, there were
It's
so
like
many
a
of
build
them.
up over
It was
time.
I was just
Yeah.
like, this game of telephone constantly happening. Like, people are not happy. Our partners aren't happy. The customers aren't happy. We're not happy. I'm like, this is not working. And there was ways that we could have cleaned it up and maintained that 4PL model. However, I think to best serve the customers, going towards a 3PL was the number one thing, because we really heard
Right.
their complaints straight from their mouth. We were
Yeah.
able to understand the warehouse's complaints and how to address those, to say like, hey, like, we can actually fix all of this. So I think that it was a cumulative effect, and it was time for us to get it back in the warehouse. Yeah.
What was the first metric or customer signal that improved after the model changed?
I think I didn't have to work on a Sunday because there weren't complaints. You know what I mean? Like, it was working.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes One of the things about running a 3PL, everyone doesn't give you like a high five when everything gets out on time. Usually you only hear when something goes wrong. And that's okay. That's part of the business.
Right.
And I think all of a sudden when there was like those quiet times, I could see on our dashboards, a lot of volume is going out and the tickets aren't going up. The tickets are closing faster. So I guess the metric would be tickets being closed faster, because when something was happening, we were able to address it very quickly, or address it before the customer even needed to notify us. To me, that was the win. Like that we're servicing them better at a better price.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
So things just started getting boring, essentially.
Yeah, I was like, what else are we going to work on?
No anxiety.
Yeah.
Good problem to have,
Good
for sure.
problem to have. Like I felt like there was definitely a tonal shift on
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I'm glad you got your Sundays back.
Yeah, it was great. It was nice.
Yeah.
So when we think about the future, and all the technology, and we talked about Claude and all this stuff, would you say, how do you think that these fulfillment models are going to change? Are they going to evolve along with it? What do you foresee the future is going to look like for like a 3PL?
I think 3PLs are going to get really good at leveraging their WMS's APIs. Everyone can build everything. All of our 3PL customers at ShipHero always want different features.
Yes.
And right now we keep doubling down on opening up our API so that they can build those.
Right.
Because they want to use their own interfaces. They want to create their own workflows. Let them. And I think empowering them, where we have that core platform, that trusted, inventory management system, order management system, that can be the trusted core, and then allow them to build things off of it.
Right.
I think that's going to be kind of like the biggest shift, is we're not trying to eat every feature. We're not trying to just build the worlds, because people want to build their own worlds. And if you ask 10 people who run warehouses to go set up a warehouse, they will tell you 10 different things.
Yeah, of course.
So I think it is one of those professions that it's we all have opinions. So being able to give them that flexibility is what we're going to lean into.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
great, because feature bloat is such a bad thing, and it can make products so hard to manage, because there's 90% of the things that are there are just kind of messing up the your interface and stuff. So I can totally get where you're coming from on that, making things a little more personal for each individual. So going back to 4PL just really quick, I'm curious actually if there is any technology, maybe say AI, for example, that you think will help improve the 4PL model, or if it's just kind of...
Yeah, I think, again, 4PL for the right type of company can be awesome. I really think when products are simple, guidelines are followed, it works. It can work. I think trying to work at scale with SMBs is very different than working with a handful of multinational corporations.
Right.
So I think they'll leverage AI similar to how the SMB mid-markets will. Again, it's just everyone needs their own. It has different needs.
Right. Fair.
And I think that's really where it comes down to, where we've really leaned into SMB mid-market, and I just don't believe the 4PL works as well there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So for businesses that are kind of hesitant to do any of the outsourcing, and they kind of just want to keep it all in-house, do you have any maybe tips for them to kind of extend their in-house, before they move on to a 3PL?
I think if you want to run your own operation as a 1PL, I think it's fantastic. Over 50% of our customers at ShipHero are brands that run their own warehouses. Okay. So just get a great WMS. Get the tools that you need. I think if you're good at hiring for those positions and people are excited about it, and I think there's certain types of products that lend itself to that. If you're trying new suppliers all the time, or doing apparel, embroidery, any sort of customization, it is really good to run your own warehouse. And I think sometimes we think about, 1PL, it's I kind of joked about the garage and the pizza party before, but there's people who self-fulfill that have 5 warehouses, across the US, and you're they're very good at what they do. So I think too, those are kind of the outliers, but always just get a great WMS, keep it in-house. I totally think that can be great if you have the right team.
Awesome. Is there any specific type of company or brand that you think that should stay in-house longer than they might think?
If there's a lot of complexity, and if you really haven't found product market fit, if you're still trying to figure out what exactly you want, I think that's where you're keep it in-house. If you're still doing some testing, and really if it's not fully packaged yet, I'd keep it in-house. Okay. Because you're going to have more flexibility than signing a year contract.
Fair enough. Yeah.
With a partner and committing to minimums and things like that.
And for companies that are doing a lot of multi-channel fulfillment, they're doing direct to consumer, they're doing wholesale, retail, all the things, is there anything that they should really be kind of aware of when they're moving over to 3PL?
definitely make sure they have B2B chops and they understand retail compliance. We've seen all of our brands making a big push into omnichannel. I think we all know it's harder to sell directly to consumers right now, and going to the Targets and the Walmarts, you have to do it.
Yeah.
So find a 3PL that has a good technology stack that can support B2B and understands retail routing. Because chargebacks are like, they're real. And I think like it's so many of our D2C brands, like this is a brave new world when it comes to that. So to really understand what they're getting into.
So when it comes down to it, when is the best time to move into a 3PL or consider more complex models? Or is it about understanding your own operational limits first?
There's a lot there. Because I was just going to say February. February, do not try to change anything during peak season. I think if you're going to do this, it's always like a Q1.
Yeah.
Q1, put out the RFP, start looking. Never be in a rush to do this. I know people want to be in a rush. Find the right partner, visit that warehouse, understand the pricing. Those types of things go a long way. I think people who don't do their homework up front end up 3PL hopping. And it's not because of the 3PL necessarily, because the 3PL just didn't answer questions that they weren't given. There was just a misalignment of incentives there and a misalignment on what was being provided. So I think that's the thing I'd say, just don't rush it.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to spend a lot of money moving inventory multiple times and not having that inventory available for sale.
Right.
So. And you're going to lose focus.
So for business owners who are listening right now that are struggling with a 4PL or a 3PL, what advice would you give them to start diagnosing what's going wrong?
You really have to see why. Well, first, like, what's the problem? Like, is it a receiving problem? Like, if things are taking too long to get received, you need to talk to the manager of that warehouse and be like, what is wrong with my product? Like, what can I do better? Like, why is this not happening? Is it a capacity issue? Is it a labeling issue? I think truly understanding the issue first. So is it receiving? And if it's receiving, do a deeper dive on like what is actually happening. Why aren't my orders getting out? You have to, you need to get someone on the phone at that warehouse to be like, is this a capacity issue again? Like, are you not getting them out because you don't have people to ship them? Are you not seeing the orders on the iPad, on what the device you need to? Right. Can you not find the inventory? So that's where you start to do some of that diagnosis of like, why can't you ship this? Like, because it could be a tech problem. It could be a personnel problem. Like, you need to understand those pieces first before you like jump to any conclusions, because people have bad days. Like 3PLs, even though they're tech enabled, will have a bad day. And sometimes just understanding what happened at that moment, maybe there's an ice storm in Dallas. Like, you don't know, like those are all the things that you have to start. You have to really take the time to dig in and kind of understand it and get the right people on the phone and keep calling until you do.
I was just going to say that can be hard sometimes.
100%. And that's why I think too, like that first part when you're onboarding a 3PL or when you're interviewing 3PLs is like, who is my contact?
Right.
What is my escalation path? I hope I don't need to use it, but I need to understand that to diagnose these problems. Otherwise, there's just going to be frustration on both ends.
Lastly, for someone trying to build or refine their fulfillment system for the long term, what's the most important principle or mindset you'd want them to focus on?
I think the first thing, whenever I'm speaking with someone that's asking questions about like a brand that comes to me, I'm like, what is long-term for them? Is that like getting through the next year? Like, are they thinking in quarters? Are they thinking in years? Are they thinking in decades? Like, what are they really trying to achieve? Because some folks are like, oh, I just want to, hit this many sales and then flip it to private equity. Okay, there's a different path for that.
Right.
Then, no, I want to build a generational company. And that from there, you can kind of say, okay, well, here are some great technologies that you can use because you only need a 1-year agreement. Here's someone that you could build a relationship for the next 5 years. So I think first understanding their goals and when they want to exit, in a sense, what is the vision?
The big picture.
The big picture, and because long term is different for everyone. It's because people now, it's like, I want to sell a company in a year. No, I want to hold it for 10. So I think that's really understanding what their goals are, and then plotting a path.
Did not think of that.
That's really good.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much, Maggie, for coming in and explaining all these different fulfillment models. Honestly, I don't think there'd be a better guest to really have on to discuss this. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Maggie. We learned so much about operating in-house, working with 3PL and 4PL partners. And before we let you go, where can our listeners go to find you and stay updated on your work?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. So we can probably just add my actual LinkedIn at
Yeah.
the bottom. And then also I'm just Maggie at LVK and Maggie at ShipHero. We've got some great events coming up. We have our ShipHero Insider event, which is for 3PLs. So if you own a 3PL or run a 3PL, reach out to me. I can try to get you a ticket. And then if you're a brand, in September, we're doing an amazing event in our Las Vegas warehouse. So if you're a brand and you want to attend, reach out to me on LinkedIn or send me an email.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone be sure to check out Maggie on LinkedIn. We'll leave all her links in the description box below.
If you like this episode, please leave us a like, comment, subscribe, do all of the things. We have some great guests coming up, so stay tuned for that.
Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.